Om Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavipiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatatam Bhuvingarnantiye Burita Janaha. The nectar of your words, the praise of poet seers, elixir to parched souls, delight to listening ears, cleanser of all sins is great and glorious. They who spread it far and wide on earth are most generous. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good evening, friends. Before we start, I just want to let you know that today is Swami Nikhilananda's birthday. He was one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, and he was one of the first to actually start relief work in 1897. And he also opened up orphanages. So just to give you an idea about some of the things he did. So we are continuing with the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. For those that are following along in the book, we are on page 166, near the bottom. So we have several male devotees that have come to Ramakrishna. Originally, they talked earlier about suicide, and then they talked about one's duties in the world and taking responsibility for one's actions and being resolute, having firm conviction, having firm resolve. And we also discussed about firm renunciation. And so now Ramakrishna is asking Vijay, why don't you come here now as frequently as before? And Vijay replies, Sir, I wish to very much, but I am not free. I have accepted work in the Brahmo Samaj. The Master replies, it is woman in gold that binds man and robs him of his freedom. It is woman that creates the need for gold. For woman, one man becomes the slave of another, and so loses his freedom. Then he cannot act as he likes. Now we should remember that here he's speaking to men, but there were certain days of the week when Ramakrishna only spoke to women, and he would tell them the opposite. He would say men and gold. So, in other words, really he was talking about it is lust and gold that makes one attached and binds one to the world. And that robs him of his freedom. Now when he says to the men that it is woman that creates the need for gold, what he's really saying is that by our attraction to a mate, it implies that we are now tending towards family and children. And so that means we now have an obligation to support a household, children, provide we now have an obligation to raise children that are fit for society. And we have to supply food, clothing, education, and also a financial safety net and all kinds of other things to maintain a stable family. So we are compelled to hold on a job to earn money, and that takes away from the freedom that we thought we had as a bachelor or bachelorette. So we are now on a road where we suddenly realize we need to make self-sacrifice. We cannot do all the things that we thought we might enjoy doing as a single person. So now we are compromising those desires that we had for ourselves, but now we have to support a family. So our own, whatever desires we had are now on the back burner. So that has taken away from our freedom, whether male or female. So we cannot just act any way we like. Now, the thing is that a family environment also provides a sense of stability. A single person may be able to do whatever they like, but it also leads to can also lead to other behavior that may not be considered socially acceptable. It is that freedom is almost like without direction, unless you are leading a spiritual life, or you have social goals or want to improve society in some way. So even then, the need is there to practice restraint over how one exercises one's freedom. But in this case, he's talking about that, okay, it is a woman that creates the need for gold. Well, no, it's really family life requires that. But then you may have a spouse that wants to continually spend money. So then that is not going to lead into a very harmonious family relationship. And it may be the wife, it may be the husband. So the husband might want a Humvee, the wife might want some jewelry. So who knows? Those desires that one might have carried into the marriage can add stress to a family situation. But whatever the fact is, one needs to then now maintain a job that can sustain that kind of family. But he loses his freedom because not in the sense that he now has to work for masters that he doesn't love, for a company he may not have love for. So he feels that he is working like a slave. If one is actually doing those kind of work and service out of love, one does not have that feeling of that one is working as a slave, whether it be within the family or whether it be for a company. If one actually loves what they're doing, one does not feel they are working as a slave. So now Swami Ramakrishna continues. He says, well, he's giving a couple of stories now. He says the priests in the temple of Govindaji at Jaipur were celibates at first, and at that time they had fiery natures. Once the king of Jaipur sent for them, but they didn't obey him. They said to the messenger, "Ask the king to come to us." After consultation, the king and his ministers arranged marriages for them. From then on, the king didn't have to send for them. They would come to him of themselves and say, "Your Majesty, we have come with our blessings. Here are some sacred flowers for the temple. Deign to accept them." They came to the palace, for now they always wanted money for one thing or another. The building of a house, the rice-taking ceremony of their babies, or the rituals connected with the beginning of their children's education. Many times I've heard husbands complain about the wife nagging. Well, we need money for this, we need money for that. So here's the story of where the mothers are probably, or the wives are probably saying, "Hey, we need money for this, go to the king and get some money." So the husband may or may not be aware of all running a household, but the wife will have to keep reminding the husband, "No, we need this, we need that." So now the husband feels, well, where's my freedom? But now his mind is all on maintain the family, on going to listen to the wife, going to the king, asking for this or that. So he feels his freedom has been restrained. And now his mind is so preoccupied with worldly activities that, and now unable to maintain a celibate life, his willpower has become diminished. And so now all kinds of demands are put on his time. may not have the same amount of time and energy as he had previously to do his spiritual practices. So now basically the king has made these monks dependent on him. So they have lost their freedom that way. Sri Ramakrishna now tells another story. There is a story of the 1,200 Nadas and 1,300 Nadis. The Nadas, is with a footnote, are Vaishnava monks, shaven-headed Vaishnava monks. They are the Nadas, and the Nadis are the Vaishnava nuns. I don't know if they are shaven-headed or not, but that is not mentioned in the footnotes here. So Virabhadra, the son of Nityananda Goswami, had 1,300 shaven-headed disciples. They attained great spiritual powers. That alarmed their teacher. He quotes, "My disciples have acquired great spiritual powers," thought Virabhadra. "Whatever they say to people will come to pass. Wherever they go, they may create alarming situations, for people offending them might unwittingly come to grief." It is said that when one practices truth for 12 years, that whatever one says will come true. So that is the case here. They are attained those spiritual powers because they have practiced spiritual discipline for many years. So now their teacher's afraid, well, with so many people that have this ability now to speak the truth, and they are so pure, that whatever they say may come to pass, that it may cause a lot of grief to those that they happen to come across. So Virabhadra thought, no, I need to reduce their power. So he thought the only way to do that is now, he says, thinking thus, Virabhadra one day called them to him and said, "See me after performing your daily devotions on the bank of the Ganges." These disciples had such a high spiritual nature that while meditating, they would go into samadhi and be completely unaware of the river water flowing over their heads during the flood tide. When the ebb tide would come, they would still remain absorbed in meditation. Now, 100 of these disciples had anticipated what their teacher would ask of them. Lest they should have to disobey his injunctions, they had quickly disappeared from the palace before he summoned them. So they did not go to Virabhadra with the others. The remaining 1,200 disciples went to the teacher after finishing their meditation. Virabhadra said to them, "These 1,300 nuns will serve you. I ask you to marry them." "As you please, revered sir," they said, "but 100 of us have gone away." Thenceforth, each of these 1,200 disciples had a wife. Well, I tried to do the math, and it seemed that several of them would have had more than one wife. So, consequently, they all lost their spiritual power. Their austerities did not have their original fire. The company of women robbed them of their spirituality because it destroyed their freedom. Again, as I mentioned, because now they have to put all their mind to maintain a family household. They had less time to think, to do their spiritual practices, and so they lost their freedom and their powers. So now he speaks to Vijay. You yourself perceive how far you have gone down by being a servant of others. Again, one finds that people with many university degrees, scholars with their vast English education, accept service under their English masters and are daily trampled under their boots. The one cause of all this is woman. Well, I would say that in this case, the one cause of all this is our lust, our desire for worldly enjoyment. They have married and set up a gay affair with their wives and children. Now they cannot go back, much as they would like to. Hence all these insults and humiliations, all this suffering from slavery. So here, he's describing that the freedom that one loses is when one has to work as a slave to others. When we take on a job, we basically sign a contract of what we promise to do for what amount of money we get. And so that is, we are held to that contract, and whatever happens, we are expected to fulfill that contract, even if your boss says, no, you have to stay in after work. I need this completed, I need that completed. So you are forced into deadlines. You must now make compromises to your family, to whatever your life is outside of work. So you are not feeling any love for the company that you are working for or your boss, unless there is some compassionate aspect to the work environment. But generally, you will feel that you are working with a slavish attitude. So Ramakrishna is saying that, and I'm sure it's the experience of every working person, that not every day is a pleasant day at work. But yet we are compelled to work because we are thinking about our future, the future of our families. We may have aspirations, we may have things that we want to do in life or achieve that can only be done with money. And the only way we will get that money is if we keep on working. So yes, we may work like a slave by day, find comfort at home by night, and maybe have fun on the weekend. So many people live for the weekend or for their vacation time, but meanwhile they are working not with an attitude of love for the masters. And we may incur all kinds of insults. We may not get the raise that we feel we deserve. We may feel that we have to justify all our actions to our boss when the review time comes along. We have to speak with your boss and discuss, well, what have you done all this past year? Are you deserving of a raise or of a change in your job description? So, and you may have to even do self-promotion to justify why they should not fire you, or why you should not be, why you should be denied a raise or given a raise. So all of that can seem quite humiliating, because on one hand you might feel that you want to lead a spiritual life, but now you realize, no, in the work environment I have to promote myself. I have to tell people why I can do this better than somebody else. And that kind of like can weigh on you. It can also feel very uncomfortable. Now Swami Krishna continues, he says, once a man realizes God through intense dispassion, he is no longer attached to woman. Even if he must lead the life of a householder, he is free from fear and attachment to woman. So here he says he is free from fear and attachment to woman. Well, when he has realized God, he doesn't see differentiation between women, or in the case of women, differentiation between men. He sees that they are all aspects of God, but his lack of fear now comes from the point of view that in his mind, he no longer feels that he has to worry about losing his moral ground. When one has realized God, one can no longer make a mistake. In other words, he has realized the truth. There's no reason for him to start being attached to the world, because he realized, no, God is the essence of everything. Why will I lower my mind to the world, to the things of the world? Why will I be attached anymore to the things of the world? So now he's working for not the things of the world, but now he feels, at this point, he's working for God. He's executing his duties. So even if he must lead the life of a householder, he is free from fear of getting back involved in this world of attachment from his mental standpoint. And he no longer has attachment to lust. So he says, suppose there are two magnets, one big and the other small. Which one will attract the iron? The big one, of course. God is the magnet, and compared to him, woman is a small one. What can a woman do? Well, before that, the woman was a big magnet, and God was the little magnet. So all his mind would go towards the woman, or in the case of the woman, all her mind to the man. But now, God is more important, and as he has experienced God, that has greater attraction to his mind than any worldly attachment. So God now attracts his mind, and his mind is established in that. It's very difficult to move a metal rod or a piece of metal that is attached to a magnet. And some of today's magnets, it's almost impossible to pull a piece of metal away from it. If we had that kind of attachment to God, there's no way any kind of worldly attachment can pull your mind away from God. I mean, I've taken some metal and had to put it into a vise with extra tools, try to get something off a magnet. So man, if we could have that kind of stickiness of attachment to God, we'd be home free. So now, a devotee, we know that devotee is M, because he's the only one that refers to himself as a devotee, and he's only in a group of 3 or 4 other men. So he's trying to be a little inconspicuous here. So he says, "Sir, shall we hate women then?" So the master is saying, well, he who has realized God does not look upon a woman with the eye of lust. So he is not afraid of her. He perceives clearly that women are but so many aspects of the Divine Mother. He worships them all as the Mother herself. So in Hinduism, they describe that one can look on God with from many different attitudes. And the one that's very revered is to look on God as Mother, and you as the child of God. Sri Ramakrishna says that's a very pure attitude. So when one has, even in the case of Sri Ramakrishna, once Mathur Babu brought a prostitute in front of him to the temple, and Sri Ramakrishna immediately bowed down to her and said, and just addressed her as Mother. And the prostitute could see in his eyes that there was no lust there, and she herself asked for his blessings. So Sri Ramakrishna, understanding that God is everywhere, and he already had that innate he already had that attitude within him that he would look on all women as the Divine Mother, as so many different aspects of the Divine Mother, that he would address everyone, all women, as Mother. And he felt that he was always their child. And so that would disarm many women And they would feel, oh, they would treat him like a child. They themselves would forget what they are. So they would look on him that way, and he would not have any lust in any of his behavior. So there was nothing there, there was no fear on his side of descending into, say, attractions of lust and so forth. So he would perceive everyone as the Divine Mother, all women. So he is asking Vijay, or actually in this case M, no, one should not hate women. In fact, this attraction we have is not the fault of the woman, it's the fault of the observer. That their own mind is, all the desire and attraction is within our own mind. It is us that have to have a proper outlook of the world. We are projecting our attraction on the objects of our attraction, our love, and so that we are confused because we have not realized the oneness of this creation of God. So we see differentiation, and because of that, we feel attraction to one or the other. But in reality, if we actually did our spiritual practices and purified the mind, we would realize that no, there is oneness in everything. We would not be attracted to all this individual items in the world. We would see that God is in everything. We would see that the Divine Mother is in all women. All women would see that it is Shiva in all men. So they would, just as in men represent or have different aspects of Shiva in them, so also the women have different aspects of the Divine Mother in them. And so each should worship that aspect rather than the individual man or woman. So I will conclude with that subject here because the next topic goes on to something else. So if there are any questions, I welcome them now. And otherwise, I will just mention a few announcements. Tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. from the retreat, Swami Brahmatmananda via Google Meet will continue with the study of Towards the Goal Supreme. And this Friday at 7 p.m., Swami Satyamananda will continue with part 3 of Gorima. And this Sunday, Swami Satyamananda will be giving a talk on the significance of the worship of Durga. This talk precedes our Durga Puja, which we will be celebrating the following Saturday here in this chapel at 11 a.m. Also, this Sunday at 7 p.m., we will be having Ramnam here in the chapel. And all these events will be live and live streamed. So I will conclude with a chant because apparently there are no questions. Even I have more questions. I hope to get those answered by Thakur one day. So I will conclude with a chant. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dritavigraham Vaye Ishavataram Paramesamidhyam Tvam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. We salute that Ramakrishna who is without blemish, eternal and infinite in forms, who has assumed human form out of compassion for the devotees, who is God incarnate, the Supreme Lord, and who is most worshipful. Om, peace, peace. Peace to all beings.